when two couples sit down and actually have conversation, these wonderful stories come out and people have these experiences that need to be shared. But not only that, but they reconnect too.
Yes.
They talk about stuff they haven't talked about in years. They get to tell their story.
Right.
And they get to document this relationship that they have, with the podcast.
Yeah.
So they have this forever recording of how they met. Their kids get to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They get to rekindle and watch it every once in a while. Gives them something to watch on their anniversary. So it was kind of cool. So we thought, okay, we're going to do this, right? And then we met Zeke, and that kind of all fell together.
I know. Welcome to Couples Unfiltered, a podcast where we discuss love, loss, relationships, and the journey. I'm Lionel Salisbury.
And I'm Natalie Galley Salisbury. We have to start out by saying we are not licensed therapists, and these discussions are solely based on our opinions and our life experiences.
Yeah.
If you're listening for the first time, welcome. Thank you. Please go back to our origin story. That's episode number 1, where you can get a little bit more background about us and how we met. But, we just wanted to kind of wrap up the year this episode.
Yeah, season finale.
Yeah, it's kind of our season finale. We're going to take a little break and do some brain strategy. So we just want to talk about a few things.
Yeah.
We started this podcast on Valentine's Day of 2024. And a lot has happened. Yeah, that's our anniversary. Yes, we got married on Valentine's Day 2020. A lot has happened since then, as expected. Yeah. But we've learned a lot. And we've realized that getting some feedback from some of our listeners and people that know us, they are kind of pushing us to talk a little bit more about ourselves. We interview our couples and our guests and ask them certain questions. And we realized that we didn't really ask each other these questions. And, in our first episode, we talk about how we met and our background story and how we're both widowed and, how that process went. And to us, of course, that's like the biggest thing in our lives. Yeah. But we don't talk about where we're from.
That's true.
And how we started. So we kind of want to talk about that today.
We did the origin story of our origin story of where we began as a couple, but we didn't talk about how we grew up. And normally we have our guests come in and we ask them, hey, take us all the way back. Take us to the beginning. And we didn't necessarily do that. So that's something we want to dive into today. And then just kind of go from there and talk about other stuff. So
this is we do this at home. So
yeah, this is how we talk.
But I might learn something about you today.
Maybe.
Maybe.
A lot of our guests get to learn brand new things. So
yeah.
So let's. You want to go right into that, or you want to?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, Natalie.
Yes, I'll marry you.
So give me your origin story. Tell me the history of you, and let's get up to the point to where we are today. Maybe not where we are today, but tell me about growing up and how was your life growing up?
All right, I'm going to try to keep this positive. I was born in Redwood City, California. I was raised in a city called Milpitas, which is right next to San Jose, which is basically the Bay Area. I am the second daughter of my parents, who are a mixed race couple. My mother is white and my father is black. My father's originally from Mississippi, Macomb, Mississippi. Right. And my mom is born and raised in the South till she was, I think, middle school-ish, right before high school, and then her family moved to Northern California. So
we're in the South?
I think she was born in Arkansas, raised in Kansas, and then there's a little Texas stint.
Okay.
And that's where most of the family's from. So that side. So my parents met at a hospital, actually the hospital I was born. My dad was an engineer, and my mom was a nurse. And of course, I was born in the 70s, so them being a mixed race couple was kind of, the height of taboo.
Yeah.
So they struggled a little bit, and I only know this because of reflecting and having conversations later, but I was raised by a father who was very, he walked around life with a chip on his shoulder, because he was married to a white woman. He was 5'6", but that man was crazy. So everybody called him Crazy Matthew.
Okay.
So,
doesn't have a ring to it. This Crazy Matthew. I was hoping for something more, but no.
No, like when you think about, if you were to talk to anybody who knew him, they would be like, "Oh, Crazy Matthew. We know Crazy Matthew."
Okay.
So just picture this guy who's not that tall, but has the might of a giant, and very strong, but just full of muscles, had that scary look on his face, and he was a good human being. He just wasn't that great of a father, and he wasn't that great of a husband. But I don't think it started out that way. So pretty much, okay, so me and my sister, Tracy, we lived in a house with our parents that were in the house. My dad became an alcoholic, and there was a lot of aggression and fighting and yelling and.
Wait, hold on, because I know this. I know the story, of course, but can you talk about you and Tracy, and kind of like how Tracy came about?
Okay, so
because that's so.
So Tracy is the only sister I was raised with. She's the only sister I know as a sister. I was raised with her, but my mother and father could not get pregnant, and they decided to adopt. So they adopted Tracy when she was 9 months old. She was also from a mixed race family. She was 9 months old and then literally got pregnant with me a couple months later.
Yeah.
So Tracy was there before I was, so I never even, the word adoption in our family was just like a word, and, but I never saw any difference. But of course, me and her were very different as far as like who we hung out with and how we kind of navigated through life. So picture me, this, scrawny little brat that's got all this hair, and I'm sassy and I'm loud and I'm fighting and I'm doing all these things.
Yeah.
And my sister's super studious. She's wearing glasses, she looks like a nerd, but just super smart and more quiet than me. So of course she's quiet, I'm loud. So each one of us, those are the things you recognize, and those are the things you kind of get labeled as.
Yeah.
And so Tracy was the quiet, sweet one with good grades, and I was the loud, sassy one that got my way, right?
And it's visible in every picture that I've seen, every childhood picture. You can see the difference between the two of you. But surprisingly, like, I didn't know Tracy was adopted until we had a conversation, because you all look so much alike, and you look like you came from your mom and your dad. So,
well, I mean, I think it helps that you grow up with somebody you have the same mannerisms as your parents. So that's the kind of stuff you recognize too. But so my childhood was I could pick it apart. There was a lot of things that were I think unusual with our family too. My parents, we always had a lot of foster kids in our house. My parents were very much into caring for other kids and wanted to help and do those kinds of things. And we had a lot of kids. Like, I think at one point there were 7 of us in the house, but lots, kind of staggering, So a lot of my memories are mixed up with siblings and who's who and whatever. I also have siblings on my dad's side. So before my dad met my mom, he was married, and he had 3 girls and a boy.
Okay.
And that was before he moved to California. So anyway, my childhood was, my parents divorced when I was, I think, 13. And, it was an interesting time because I'm a teenager.
Right.
And of course I'm excited that my dad is out of the house, because he was the disciplinarian, and, he was always that rough, Crazy Matthew, running outside in the street with his gun and shooting it in the air and threatening people who were threatening his daughters. He even showed up at a party one time. I begged him to have a party at his house, and I think it was, I can't even remember if it was graduation or my birthday or something significant. And I begged him to let me have a party. And I remember I had all these friends. It was the first boy-girl party I had. And he let me have this party at his house. And that man walked around that party with a gun in his holster belt, talking about, if you mess with my daughters, I'm going to bust a cap in your ass. Like, that's what he would whisper to boys. Like, he would laugh with them and joke and introduce himself. And then he'd say that at the end. Then he'd walk away and say it to somebody else. Just embarrassing.
I would have loved to have met him.
He was an interesting character. But my parents separated, and, our lives kind of moved differently. My dad moved back to Mississippi, and I just became this kind of independent person who always wanted to get out of the house, out of my parents, off from under my parents, discipline and control. Started working when I was like 13, started driving when I was 13, started doing all these things I shouldn't have been doing. And I hadn't not worked since I was 13. Illegally, just doing whatever.
Yeah, it was the time everybody worked and got paid under the table or something like. Not everybody, but.
I mean, if you wanted money, that's what you did. Yeah. You found it, somehow, and it was easy for them to just give us money, And the day I turned 16, I got a brand new car, and I got my driver's license, kind of like within a couple days of each other, and that was like no stopping me from there. And I think, what I left out was that my dad won the lottery. So. My dad won the California lottery right after he divorced my mom, or actually she divorced him. And of course he gave her money and stuff. It wasn't that much money, I would say the equivalent today would probably be about $3 or $4 million. Right? Okay. And back then it wasn't that much. It was like $1 million. I don't know what the inflation is, but that money, goes quick when you're just spending it. Yeah. And my dad was the type of man that what he did when he got that money was he moved back to Mississippi and he bought the biggest house on the whitest block.
Oh my God.
So he wanted to be
There's
that,
a chip on
that
the
black
shoulder right
man.
there.
Yeah. So anyway, he loved us, but the way he showed love was by threatening us. Yeah. Like, if you do this, you're going to get a spanking, and the spankings back then weren't exactly spankings.
Yeah. It was something else. Whatever I can find.
Yeah, switches. So, he would threaten us, and he would, tell us that he's doing these things because I love you. Yeah. He used to fight with me physically, show me how to fight. But it was not easy. And he used to take me in the garage, make me do a lot of woodworking with him. I was like the boy he wasn't raising, right. And so I had a relationship with my dad in that way. But when the drinking got out of hand, that was when we all, got snacks and ran and hid in our room and didn't want to be around him. And he was yelling and he was very aggressive. And that was my example growing up. Yeah. And so that led me down a path of kind of, finding the wrong guys to be with, because I guess that's kind of a natural progression as you are attracted to what you know. Yeah. And if someone shows you this is how they love you, then that's what you think love looks like, right? So I had a little dating troubles, and I probably dated a little sooner in life than I should have. Mm-hmm. I think the Bay Area where we lived, us girls, we were growing up fast, not very supervised, and just kind of living our lives, right? And then, let's see. I went to Piedmont High School in San Jose. Mm-hmm. Go Pirates. I played softball. Met my best friend, Jana. Hung out like crazy in San Jose. Once we started driving, it was over with. We were street racing. We were doing all kinds of stupid stuff. But I met my first husband cruising down King and Story. Mm. And he was a little older than me. I didn't know that. But I knew the first day I met him, though, that I was going to marry him. Yeah. I will never forget. I met him cruising. I was in a Suzuki Sidekick convertible with my girlfriends that had a lot of hair. I think I was the only girl of mixed race. I don't think Jenna was there that day. She might have been.
You said a lot of California stuff.
Yeah,
big
totally.
Hair, cruising, and I'm like...
Big hair. Hair bears. We were hair bears. Everybody knows what that is, right? Listening to high energy music. Look how weekends go. Here I come.
No, man.
So anyway, after I met him, the first date of ours was that he came to my house to pick me up, but we sat in the car and just talked for a real long time. And I'll just never forget, in the middle of that conversation, I got out of the car and I ran inside, and I had a friend that was living with me at the time, with my mom. I was still living with my mom. And I told her, I said, I'm going to marry this guy and have his kids. And she's like, what? I'm like, I could see it. I could just totally see it. And from then on, like, we had our little ups and downs, but we were together for 8 years before we got married. I made him wait till he was 35 because he was not ready.
Yeah.
And I was young. And at 17, I met him. So I was raising one of his kids. He had 2 kids, and you can hear more about that in our first story, our first episode. But I started raising one of his children, kind of at the age of 18. So my life kind of started really early and then progressed into 26 years of marriage, which was great and not perfect, but, that was my life. So,
Well,
I guess that's it. I'm probably missing some things.
Well, I think you painted a really beautiful picture. Yeah. And rest in peace to Mom, Martha, and Matthew. I didn't get to meet him, but I met her, and such a wonderful woman. I so enjoyed just sitting down with her and listening to her stories of you growing up and just telling me who you are as a person.
Telling on me.
Telling on you, all the trouble you got into and everything. But I'm very thankful to the both of them for meeting each other and creating this beautiful woman that's here with me today. So
thank you.
I do miss her. So
yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
1975.
75. Yeah.
Young buck here.
70s baby.
I'm robbing the cradle.
Yeah. So I was born on a Saturday.
Yeah, we're going way back.
But my mom and dad, Gene and Lionel.
Your mom has the greatest name.
My mom's name is Flossie Jean. She is from Sweetwater, Alabama, with my grandmother Ann, who's still around, and she was the daughter of sharecroppers, which means slavery was pretty close to me. As I think about that now, it's like, wow, so incredible. I met them before they passed away. But my mom and dad met, I want to say my mom was around 16 or 17, somewhere in there. My mom had already had 2 children, my 2 older brothers, Mike and Ronald, we call him Pee-wee. And she had them when she was really young. The story of my parents meeting was my dad, who is incredibly talented. He can do almost anything. He can make almost anything. He can create. But the thing that always sticks out to me was my dad was an artist. And I remember he had a town that he drew. He drew all the people, and he drew it was crazy. I have this image in my head. But my dad drew my mother before he even met her. And when they met, I want to say it might have been the 2nd or 3rd date. I can't remember how the story goes, but he showed her that picture. So that's how they got together. They married when they were young. I think my dad was maybe 20. He was in his 20s, and my mom was maybe 18 or 17 or 18, somewhere in there.
And they're going on 52 years?
Yeah, they're creeping up on, I'm almost 50. Yeah, I think 52 years, I believe so. So they've been together for quite some time. I am the middle child of 5, so.
You're straight in the middle.
Yeah, I'm dead in the middle. I got 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, Michael, Ronald, LaFonda, and Jessica, and I'm right there in the middle. Upbringing, Youngstown, Ohio. I grew up in the city. We moved around a lot. We moved around the city a lot, from the north side to the south side. We moved out of state twice. Once when I was 2, as I remember, to Texas, and then once when I was in transitioning from elementary to middle school. And we were only in South Carolina for a short amount of time. We had some hard times, and hence the moving around. And
Your dad's been a musician all of his life, yeah?
oh my goodness, yeah. So my dad's been playing. He was actually when he graduated high school, if I remember correctly, he graduated high school. He moved to California, to San Francisco, and was playing and performing. And he could play almost any instrument, but bass guitar was his main thing. And he was in a car accident. And to this day, my dad has a piece of glass stuck in his eye, which is, absolutely hilarious, because we would always sneak into the room to see if he was asleep, but that one eye stayed open. So it's like, oh, shoot, Dad, are you asleep? But yeah, he still plays, and he's a great musician. Mm-hmm. Parents all sing. Everybody had a musical talent.
You mean your siblings?
My parents, my siblings,
oh, yeah.
Everybody either sings or plays an instrument. And I just didn't find my voice with singing. It was, gospel music. And
You're really good at imitations, though.
I still try to sing. Yeah. I try, but, I don't know. But around the time I was 12, I got into rapping. So writing poetry was my thing, because I would always write my feelings. I was very, I guess I was an introvert. Mm-hmm. So writing was my way of escaping, reading and all those things. So I started writing poetry and writing my feelings down. And then one day I was walking home from school with my friend, and this guy, for the life of me, I can't remember his name, but we ended up joining the Marine Corps around the same time. But he came up to me and he was like, "I heard you rap, I want to battle." I was like, all right. So it was the first time I battled on a freestyle, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this. So for several years, I started really diving into being an MC. And then when I got into high school, where I went to the Rand School, no longer exists, but 30 years ago, that was where I graduated from. But I really started honing my skills as being an MC. And so I was started working when I was 12 as a paper boy, going to school, doing other Youngstown things, and mm-hmm. making music. But that carried me all the way up until I graduated high school. And
did you graduate high school?
So eventually. No, when I was in high school, I want to say it was probably February of graduating year. Mm-hmm. Guidance counselor, Miss Williams, never forget her. She called me into her office and was like, "Lionel, you're not going to graduate." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had a 1.9 GPA. I was skipping school. And
what was the requirement? Because I think that's my GPA at graduation.
2.0.
Oh, maybe that's what it, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have to have a 2.0 in order to graduate.
We were like simultaneously having
that's so crazy.
Same
absolutely
situation.
Crazy. But I was just, my focus was making money. That was my focus.
Yeah, because your household was struggling.
Yeah, we wanted to bring money into the house. We wanted to have certain things. And, you're looking at kids in your neighborhood, and some kids are doing Youngstown things, and it shows because of what they were wearing. And I was bullied. I was teased because I'm super dark, and I wore glasses. But
and you had your head in the books.
I was in,
but you were still hanging out with those troublemakers, right? So you were doing some things you shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah. But my brother, man, my brother Mike, till this day, he is a big brother. Because he will tease me till this day. And, people worry about bullies outside the house. I had it in the house. I had to fight all my life. But no, in the house, we're going through and we're dealing with it. But, I learned a lot from my family, and they taught me a lot. And there's a lot of love with with everything that's
And then
in
you
there.
ended up getting your high school diploma in a bar.
I got my high school diploma in a bar with the Marine Corps recruiter, the bartender, and an actor named Ed O'Neill.
Married with Children.
Yeah. So this
That's the actor. He's
yeah.
from Married with Children.
So
The show. You weren't married with children.
No, I wasn't. So he was instrumental in the network Fox, Married with Children. There was another show with Elliot, Chris Elliott. He was a I think he was a 40-year-old paper boy. Hilarious show. But these were the actors that created what we know today as the Fox network with The Simpsons and all of that. They were pioneers.
Just nerding out real quick.
Yeah, he's a Youngstown. I know. He's a Youngstown guy. So we got a lot of good people from Youngstown.
Yeah.
As well as this guy from Youngstown. So
well, funny enough, we talk about how, you hear about people who are sometimes the most successful people didn't even go to college, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like we're super successful, but what I'm saying is that we both didn't go to college, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't go to college at that time.
Yeah. Right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
Yeah. All my friends were going to college, even if it was a junior college or what do you call it?
Yeah.
City college.
City college, junior college. Yeah.
And I didn't do that right away.
Yeah.
I went to a vocational school. I got my LVN, and I started being a nurse inside of a hospital where I worked from the day I turned 18, because my mom worked in a hospital. She worked in that same hospital in San Jose.
When did you start working at the hospital?
1991.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, I was 18. Actually, I was hanging around, but they couldn't hire me until I turned 18.
Yeah.
Because I was in the ICU. So I started working in the critical care unit when I just turned 18, and I was a monitor tech watching the heart monitors and unit clerk, doing that stuff, and then ended up going to school because everybody was like, hey, just go get your LVN, because back then we did a lot. Right. The LVNs had a lot of access to do things. Now we're super restricted in the hospitals, but did that, then ended up going back to school to get my RN, but it took me like 10 years and I never finished because I kept having kids in between.
Yeah.
And a lot of drama in the home and a lot of stuff going on and tragedies and things that were stopping me from finishing. So I never finished that. Had regrets for a long time about that. Yeah. But after 30 years of being in that medical field, in that capacity, diving into the deep end, and then kind of slowly coming out of that, I realized that I've done enough and I'm kind of over that and want to move forward, with things. But and you didn't go to college right away either. You went to the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I went to the Marine Corps. Thankfully, my recruiter, Sergeant Hill, I still remember him. Ended up running into him when I was a drill instructor down at Paris Island. But yeah, joined the Marine Corps, and first time on a plane, I flew to Tokyo, Japan. But learning, I think the Marine Corps taught me how to learn, and then that inspired me with a lot of staff NCOs and people that were right there with me, teaching me, hey, you need to go to college. You need to go ahead and figure out what it is that you want to do. Yeah. Led me to go to college. Right. So yeah, and a couple of degrees and a few certificates later.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I used to regret not going to school and I went to school. I took all those nursing classes twice. Yeah. But it didn't make me a better nurse. Like I was good at what I was doing. I'm smart. I can learn things quickly, and I'm good with my hands, and I have a lot of common sense. So really that's a lot of what carries you through those kind of jobs.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things that people have innately within them that cannot be taught. Yeah. And you have that. You have that ability. I watched you work as a nurse.
Yeah.
We had some heart pounding times at the school where some things happened, where we had some emergencies. And
yeah, that was actually a very significant moment. I remember that you told me that, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, we had a student who we're still in contact with. He had a seizure, and his roommate came and he got me. I went over there and kind of moved everybody away from him.
You radioed,
Yeah, radioed, and You came strolling in, you walked in that door, and it was crazy because I don't know if it was the way the blinds were open or where the door was open, but when you walked in, the sunshine came with you, and I was like, oh my God. What is this? And you put your hand on my back and you said, I got him, baby. I was like, oh God. Man, I remember that. And it was like everything stopped. We had a lot of everything stopped moments. You kind of bring that.
That was God introducing us to each other in a way that was, you needed to see me outside of that little box I was in that health center. And, because I didn't have interaction with you in any other way outside. It was always very, you'd come to the health center, have questions for me, and I would never leave that place. So,
that was very significant. But I watched you, and I watched how you are with the students, and how patient, but how thorough. And some of these words of what's going on in the body and medication, I don't know how that sticks in your brain.
Yeah, I don't either. That's weird.
You go ahead and speak that language. But I love it.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with me working in the ICU. I started there. So I went from ICU to kind of like rehab nursing and then med-surg kind of nursing and then to boarding school.
Right.
So I had all this knowledge that I didn't need by the time I got there. So nothing really fazed me. I'd have done it all,
Yeah. I think my background in the Marine Corps, experiencing some things led me to, be calm. And
we have kind of similar life experiences. We're like on linear paths. Yeah. Obviously, our ages are different, but I think we were doing similar things at the same time. Yeah, not knowing each other, from worlds away or whatever, or states away or countries away, depending on where you were at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've had similar experiences growing up and similar experiences becoming adults that have impacted who we are today, and we understand that. We understand those things come from each other. And we've learned a lot. And so it's great because we can teach each other and, kind of reflect and mirror each other. And it's important. That's important, I think, in a relationship, too, that you understand the person's journey before they came.
So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about our journey. And we talked about our story, kind of being together and in our origin story, episode 1. But let's talk about why.
Yeah, we started this podcast because, and we kind of briefly spoke about it too, but I felt like when we got together, we were social people that were like trapped inside of these bodies that were so conditioned to not be social because of the relationships we were in before. And it wasn't like at the time that was something that was such a problem because, you adapt to the ebb and flow of who that person is. And I was married to someone who had anxiety in social situations and was very private, I guess. He was very private, kind of conservative, and he had a small group of people. And he had trauma in his life too. So however he got there, that's the type of person he was. So we didn't engage in a lot of socializing together. We were just me and him. I had a lot of friends coming into the relationship, and I slowly kind of moved away from hanging out with my friend group because he didn't like to be out and about and meet the friends' boyfriends and do all that stuff. Was never comfortable for him. So for 26 years, we did a lot of stuff at home. We were homebodies. My kids, were homebodies too because that's the way we kind of were. And then when we met, it was like we were so excited to meet people, and we didn't even know how to meet people. We didn't know how to meet other couples. So we started to kind of look for people that we thought might be our people and kind of interview them per se. Yeah. Not actually, but
just converse. Well, it went from conversation, kind of interviewing, because we need to get to know each other.
Right.
And then we don't like to be surface. We want to go deep. We want to understand where people are coming from. So, I guess I guess it was kind of interviewing.
Yeah, I think we had been through such traumatic stuff that we were so open and vulnerable with each other. We forget that other people aren't naturally that way.
Yeah.
So when we would start to hang out with couples, we'd find couples and then we'd purposely like have them over for dinner or, have them over just to hang out in the backyard and, just chat. And I think we were being so vulnerable. We didn't realize that that was contagious.
Yeah.
And it was providing a kind of a safe space for people to talk.
Right.
And so they would open up and talk, and then we'd hang out with these people. We'd make these connections. And these connections were so new to us, right? That we were like, we have friends, we have couple friends,
know.
and we like this, and we're making up for lost time for not really being able to do that. And we started to talk about doing a podcast so that we can kind of talk to couples like we met about their relationships, because that seemed like the vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's like when two couples sit down and actually have conversation, these wonderful stories come out and people have these experiences that need to be shared. But not only that, but they reconnect too.
Yes.
They talk about stuff they haven't talked about in years. They get to tell their story.
Right.
And they get to document this relationship that they have, with the podcast.
Yeah.
So they have this forever recording of how they met. Their kids get to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They get to rekindle and watch it every once in a while. Gives them something to watch on their anniversary. So it was kind of cool. So we thought, okay, we're going to do this, right? And then we met Zeke, and that kind of all fell together.
I know. And I'll tell you, that's been the joy of talking to our guests after we sit down and talk with them, and to just see them have this light about them.
Yeah, it's like a rekindle.
And they talk about it. When we were sitting down, I remember we were talking about this and this and that. And it's beautiful. And I think why we continue to do what we're doing is because of that, sparking that, throwing the kindling on there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fire's already there.
Yeah.
But,
Reminding people of why they got married.
Exactly.
And who they were before, life started kind of getting in the way.
Yeah.
You have kids and all the things that come with marriage and just evolving, right? All the things that come with being an adult.
Right.
And depending on if there's stepkids involved or if there's, new children or no children, or even in just relationships in general, sometimes people can be together for 5 years and it's like they can still go back for year one and forget about who they were when they met and why they married, why they are with this person. Yeah. And so it's nice to kind of be those people, to sit down and talk to them and ask them questions and kind of poke and prod.
Right.
So they can start talking, not that they didn't do it before, but a lot of people just don't. And I think I think it's great that we provide a healthy environment for people to feel like it's okay. And what I love most about what we're doing is that we are providing like mentors. Which I feel like there's not a lot of mentors anymore. At least couples, everybody needs a mentor. Every couple needs a mentor. And I believe that the days of couples where people can look up to and admire, because not just the way they look in public, but because of how they are in real life.
Exactly.
And how they move about and how they respect each other and, are constantly showing people what a healthy relationship should look like.
Right.
We need more people like that. So the fact that we're finding people like that and they're willing to talk about it and then, be the examples and represent that, and they're real people,
And not just the Instagram image of the relationship. Instagram's great. You get to narrate what you want people to see.
Right.
But the real life.
Yeah.
Relationships are not easy, but they can be a lot of fun. And other couples can learn from somebody else's relationship through the trials and the tribulations that they go through.
Yeah, but I think it helps people just not feel alone in whatever trials they are having. Because,
no, absolutely.
We want to talk to people that are single. We want to talk to people that are together a couple of years. Whatever stage of life, it's all very interesting. Relationships.
And professionals too that can help talk about what is going on in a relationship. Like we talked to Dr. Davis about perimenopause.
Yeah.
That stuff is important because we don't necessarily know it all.
Yeah.
So help us.
I know, right? It's like There's a lot I still have to learn. Well, I mean, I'm still learning stuff about myself, you know?
We're going to constantly learn things about ourselves because we're going to constantly evolve into the individuals that we're supposed to be. So,
yeah. Well, I think it's the connections that we've made. Like, I don't think, let's see, of all the couples that we've interviewed, actually, everybody we've interviewed, we've had a continuous relationship with.
Yes.
We looked back on a timeline, actually, of your photos in your phone. And of all of the people we interviewed, I mean, in general,
the full year, yeah.
We've hung out with Juan and Esme, and they were in the episode Dating Your Spouse. Like, they keep dating your spouse.
Yeah, was that 9?
Yeah, I have to figure it out.
Was it that long ago? They were episode 11.
Oh, okay.
Episode 11.
I don't know why I missed that. Okay, Love, Laughter, and Lifelong Dates with Juan and Esme. Yeah, we've hung out with them so much. We're going to see them again on Friday.
Yeah.
They're so fun. And, you know, they're the perfect example of hanging out with people that like each other.
I know.
You know, it's like...
It's important. It's important
It's so important when you're with a couple, and you know everybody's been there where you've witnessed some sort of awkward moment. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, and not everybody has. We have awkward moments too. And you know, every day is a different temperature. Like every day, I have a different temperature, and you know, some days you can fix the thermostat, some days you can't.
I know. I'm trying. I'll be like,
or some days you are the thermostat, I should say. But in public, you know, we have such respect for each other, and we remember some of the things that we did wrong in our first relationships. And we've kind of vowed to not bring those things into the new relationship. And, you know, put your ego to the side, because this is the stuff that hurts the relationship,
right.
You know. And, you know, we all have bad days, and some days I get more sassy Natalie than I am, you know, not. But we talk about it afterwards, and, you know, you'll bring it up, like, and say, you know, I didn't really like the way you said that, and it made me feel this way, and maybe I knew I did it, maybe I didn't know I did it, but we have those conversations. But anyway, the point is, we like to hang out with people who like each other because it decreases those awkward moments, right?
Exactly.
And but when they have those awkward moments, it's okay.
It's okay.
We know that they respect each other. Yep. And sometimes they even make up right there. You know, like they fix it right then and there.
Exactly. It's like, oh, babe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's a mature relationship.
They've been together for what, 30? Gosh, I don't even remember.
They just celebrated 30 years.
Was it 30?
Yeah.
35.
No, it's 30.
Okay.
Well, we celebrated with them.
Yeah, we went to Mexico. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's an awesome time. One of my favorites, which I love them so much, our neighbors.
Which ones?
Schmidt and Denise.
Oh yeah.
So
episode 2.
Episode 2.
Arranged marriage.
I appreciate their genuine nature, because we had a very good conversation with them where we talked about race, and we talked about caste, and we talked about the caste system and where everybody falls, and they are so open and so vulnerable.
Yeah, they literally were like, ask us anything you want.
And we've been talking about we talked about things. We pray together. We celebrate each other's culture. We celebrate each other's holidays, and I love them so much.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. They're great because they're so down to earth, and they're not afraid to share some of the things that they're afraid we may assume about their culture.
Yeah.
Being here in America, they experience a lot of racism, and you know, they had a lot of questions about being black. You know, that they were told a lot of things growing up.
Yeah.
About black people and black people in America and some of the history. And, you know, I get it. When you're from another culture, you learn little bits about other cultures, right? You don't necessarily have a full recognition of all of the history. but they get just enough information that they know that it's not good.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they were told,
Oh,
is
yeah,
that
absolutely.
it's not good, right? And so we were open with them as well, and we were like, ask us any questions that you need. And
Right.
of course, you know, I don't claim to be the one that they should be asking some of these questions. Because with the way I grew up, I didn't really have a whole lot of racism experiences in my life. I had a lot of colorism,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a lot of racism. So whatever happened around me, I maybe didn't acknowledge or know, but and maybe it stuck somewhere. But you've had more experience with that than
Yeah.
me, so
But your black card is still intact, so
it's still
you're
intact, even though you've tried to snatch it from me a few
Okay.
times.
Now and again, we just gotta, you know.
But I feel like I've just been raising kids for so many years that I didn't had time to know all those movies and
It's
actors.
okay. We'll sit down. We'll watch everything Spike Lee, and we will. Well, so other great, just great people. Everybody that we interviewed has been fantastic. Mark and Heather, and Chris and Sin, Bobby and Renee, who are doing fantastic things.
Yeah,
with
episode 5.
The nonprofit. Yeah.
Bobby and Renee, they have a nonprofit that is called AIM.
Achievement in Motion.
And we had a great little fundraiser for them was it after we interviewed them? Yeah, it was after we interviewed them.
Yeah, it was after.
And they're doing really good. They have a brick and mortar now. So AIM Achievement in Motion.
Yeah.
They tutor and mentor children for free.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And our good friends Tracy and Amir, who we
Yes.
originally met on Network One-on-One
Yeah.
and podcasts, where Zeke Coralie put us together and threw a bunch of questions on the monitor. And we all asked each other the questions, answered the questions, and literally got to know them that day.
Yeah.
Never met them before. And they ended up being good friends of ours, which
Yeah.
we will also see on Friday.
We'll see you on Friday.
Their episode is episode 3, Setting the Ground
Yeah.
Rules. We learned a lot from them because they have 4 kids, and they have been very consistent in their parenting.
Yeah.
They are 2 really mature adults that kind of plan and think through everything they do. And they have this kind of forethought that each one of their children are different.
Yeah.
And they talk and kind of not tutor, what's the word I'm looking for? Like mentor
Yeah,
their
they
children
mentor,
based on their personalities and what they can achieve. And so they're very strategic in their parenting.
Yeah. And great kids, very talented people. Just, yeah, they're not kids.
Yeah.
They're all adults.
Yeah, they're black excellence.
Yes, they are. As we say, urbane bronze.
Yeah, so we have this thing, and I don't know if we should even say this because it might be considered, somebody might be offended by it.
You know what? It is what it is. There's a thing. You know, we try to coin our own stuff, and you know, one thing we talk about is
You try to coin a lot of stuff.
I'm trying.
He's a poet.
I'm a marketer, so I'm just. But anyway, we like black excellence. However, we have a room in our house, and the paint color is urbane bronze. It is black, but when the sun hits it, it just shines so bright.
It's a special black.
It's a special black. So that's our version of black excellence, urbane bronze.
Yes.
So
Tracy and Amir are very urbane bronze.
and we have a lot of people that are in that sphere.
Yeah.
But you know, with all of our guests who have become part of our community, we're so very thankful to have each and every one of them in our lives, as well as we're very thankful to have you all out there in our lives. So
yeah, we've learned a lot, and we're trying to build this community of people to have these chats with. We really like the engagement, and for people to kind of let us know what it is that they want us to talk about, because we find our couples in very different ways. Sometimes it's through networking of just being at events and chatting with people and going up to couples we see sitting there and literally asking them, how'd you guys meet? There's that one guy, I think he's a YouTuber or TikToker, where he goes around streets of New York and he asks people, are you guys a couple? And then, can you tell me the story of how you met? And pretty much that's what we do
Yeah.
because, we know people, but there's people we want to know that we don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're, prominent figures in San Diego because where we're at, we're in events where there's prominent figures there that
absolutely.
are married couples. But we don't just want people that have some sort of prominence. We have all people that are real, but those are the people that I feel like have the greatest stories because they work really hard. They're driven, and we have a lot to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of people that we want. We want the people who will be vulnerable enough to share their story,
Right.
And know that we're not going to like exploit something negative or, try to get views by talking about crazy
I
stuff.
say this all the time. No Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
We want to provide the cheat codes for anyone that's listening.
Right. And I woke up this morning, and I don't know if you guys, I know everybody knows what shower thoughts are, right? So, you go in the shower and you have all these thoughts and these wonderful ideas come to you while you're just kind of focused. And I have those thoughts in the morning when I first wake up.
Yeah.
And I do a little bit of meditation. And I'm blessed right now to be in a position in my life where I wake up when I want to wake up and when my body says it's time to wake up, unless, I have somewhere to be. But an alarm doesn't wake me up. I just wake up naturally.
Yeah.
And while I'm waking up, I do this meditation. And this morning I felt like God was speaking to me. And all I kept hearing over and over again was, be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient. And of course that applies to a lot of things. It could be a lot of reasons in my personal life he's talking about. Sure. But in regards to the podcast, I realized that we have naturally these kind of overachiever type personalities.
Right, yes.
And we want everything to have a goal and to have an end date so that we can get to that goal and we can push to the end of the date, whatever. And this kind of situation here with this podcasting is so out of our hands, right? We've had to learn over this not even year. We started in February and it's December.
Yeah.
That we can't have everything happen all at once,
That's
right?
True.
We have to wait until it gets viewed by the right people and that those people are resonating with what we're doing. And we're doing this. It doesn't matter if we have 500 followers or 5 million followers. If we've touched 5 people in the right way, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. But of course, having more followers means that we have more access to people who may be able to benefit from something that they hear from this show. So, we are willing to be patient until we get to the point where somebody or something says it's time for you to move on to something different. But I do realize that we aren't comparing ourselves to Mel Robbins and Oprah because obviously these people have been doing stuff for many, many years and or they've had some sort of platform prior to starting a podcast. So they bring their followers and their fans with them to a podcast. But we're starting out cold.
Yeah, we are.
And I think we're doing pretty well. I think we are because we're steadfast in finding our people and we're steadfast in doing what it is we want to do. We're sticking with it. And it's like a job. Yeah. We really do want and like to do this. Absolutely. And we feel like that we have this, we've been given this gift of being in a relationship with each other that is working so well together.
Right.
As a team and being on the same level of kind of vulnerability and talking about stuff that we just want to share that vulnerability. So, if there's anything anybody would like for us to talk about, that'd be great. Or if you guys have a good story or someone with a good story, that would be great if you could reach out to us.
Yeah.
And before we end this podcast episode, our last episode of the season.
In the season.
Happy holidays. But we wanted to thank some of the people who have been instrumental in us being able to film here at the Film Hub.
Yeah.
In Vista. We start out with Mr. Zeke Corley, our producer from A Different Day Radio.
Yeah. And we want to say thank you to Lauren Fehlhaber at the Film Hub. She is the boss of the Film Hub.
Boss lady.
Want to make sure she is aware she's the boss. She runs this amazing space that we're able to be in. And
Star Fox Media.
yeah,
Jeff Fox and his crew, project manager Carlos Hernandez, video, audio, and sound editing, Nashelle Brown, Mateo Schmidt, and Jacob.
Jacob,
I don't know your last name. We'll put that in there.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of our listeners for hanging out and hanging in there with us while we explore our vulnerability and allowing us to heal through healthy conversations and connections with people. And we'll be back in 2025 with new episodes.
Yeah.
So please subscribe,
like, follow.
We're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. And if you see us throughout, come sit down, talk to us, have a chat. We'll have a glass of wine.
Yeah, we're in SoCal, hanging all over San Jose and the North County.
Yeah.
I said San Jose. San Diego.
San Diego.
Not quite reaching San Jose yet. SoCal, North County, and in San Diego.
In Costa Rica. Thank you for joining us.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
See you next year.